Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in day to Kagurabachi chapter number 92. This chapter is titled The Swordsman. Hokuto no, I'll give it to you. That's a pretty good chapter title name. I mean, considering what this entire chapter is about, and oh boy, I'm about to spoil the chapter. I'm about to spend 20 minutes talking about, oh my gosh, who could believe this travesty, right? But this chapter is all about, like, hey, we have the two members from the Kabinagi, Natsuki and Uruha here. And oh man, we have got two members from the Hishaku, man, Hokuto and Yura. Would you believe that? They're all fighting each other in like a 2v2, 1v1, sort of like all man for himself. Like, I honestly don't really know how this whole battle was going down. It's almost just like whoever is fighting whoever they want to whenever they want to. I mean, it's one of these things where, like, we see like 8 different battles happen in this chapter just by like different characters like going, and like Natsuki will fight Yura for a minute, then I'll just go and fight Hokuto instead, right? And honestly, it just makes for a really fun chapter. And also, this entire just battle makes for some really fun paneling as well, as I legitimately think this is probably the best paneling that we have ever seen in Kagurabachi. Just the way the action is drawn, and honestly, just the way it's an inside battle as well. I mean, I know we sort of had like an inside battle with Inten, or not Inten, the character's name is Chihiro, and Hyuki versus, oh gosh, why can I not remember names right now? Kyoura, I don't know. Like, I should know Kyora's name, I just forgot it for some reason, right? But while that was an inside battle, it wasn't an inside battle like this is, where, like, they're changing through floors, and, like, even with just Natsuki's battle versus Hokuto last chapter, there's just something more of the 4v4 that's pretty much going on here that makes it just so much more enjoyable, right? But yeah, really, before we just hop into this chapter itself, let me quickly talk about what happened last time in Kagurabachi. And as I just mentioned, last chapter was an entire one just about Natsuki pretty much going through and fighting with Hokuto. Hokuto had appeared next to Kiri and Hakuri, and it was this little whole thing of like, hey, oh no, it looks like Hokuto's getting ready to beat up Hakuri and Kiri, but no, Natsuki came in to save the day, and there's this big battle back and forth. We learned a lot about Natsuki's whole character in general, and why he resents Uruha and our characters like that, until eventually Uruha falls through the ground while fighting Yura, and hey, there are 4 parties here who all want to fight each other pretty much, and that's where we ended off last chapter, along with the little gag of the guy in the wall just being like, don't destroy the building anymore, right? But this chapter opens up a bit more proper, as we see that all of the two groups have pretty much gotten and aligned themselves with each other, right? As the first thing we really just see is Yura being like, oh, Hokuto, you're here, right? And Hokuto's like, hey, Yura, hey, was that who I think it was? And Yura's like, yes, it was Hokuto. And Hokuto's like, comes around and pretty much like puts his arm around Yura like he did Hakuri earlier. Just like, you saved him for me, didn't you? Oh, man, it's just so awesome, Yura. But Yura just pretty much says like, no, like, that man is just way too strong for me to actively deal with him, pretty much, right? And of course, on the other side of the battlefield, we see Natsuki is standing there, and Uruha has now come down next to Natsuki and just like, hey, bro, it's been a minute, right? And the first thing that Natsuki actually asks Uruha is a little interesting. He's just like, hey, why are you so sluggish right now, right? As Uruha just explains, like, hey, an enemy's sorcery made my body heavy, but I'm all good to go now, pretty much, right? And he's like, hey, but what about you, right? And Natsuki's like, hey, shut up, I don't care about you at all, right? As pretty much we just see Natsuki thinking about his battle of Hokuto, and how Hokuto really hasn't been trying to actively fight yet. Like, he's definitely been saving his strength for the bigger confrontations that were getting ready to happen. Of course, the one that we are seeing right now, right? And we even see that Natsuki's like, hey, this guy's really tough, isn't he? And he pretty much looks back to Kiri, who's just like, yeah, he is for sure. As she even remembers back to whenever she fought Hokuto for a few minutes, she's like, yeah, with an arm that strong and not even his dominant one, he has spent some time swinging that sword for sure, pretty much, right? And as Kiri thinks this, we just see that Ruha's like, hey, Kiri, you go and take Hakuri to Shinichi, like, get out of here, we don't want to see your faces, pretty much, right? And Kiri's like, what do you mean? Like, am I the only one who doesn't get payback on this guy? And Natsuki's like, hey, quit whining, you brat. Like, just go ahead and get on out of here, right? And I now just love how Ruha's like, hey, Natsuki, like, that's just rude. Don't be telling off Kiri like that, pretty much, right? But either way, Kiri's like, hey, it's whatever. Fine, you two old dudes handle these old dudes right here. And she's like, hey, just make sure that you guys come out alive and make sure that you two kill them, pretty much, right? And as sort of this happens, I also just love, like, the banner that we get here between Natsuki and Uruha. As Uruha looks over and just says, like, hey, she's calling you old. You know that, right, Natsuki? Natsuki's like, no, she's calling you old, Uruha. That's how this goes, pretty much, right? But of course, here in the moment, the two of them are standing side by side, and in front of them, standing side by side, are the two members of the Hishaku, Yora and Hokuto. As we just simply see that the next one to get a word out is Hokuto. He pretty much like just almost goes down and bows in front of Uruha, just being like, "Oh, Yoji Uruha, isn't it? It's an honor to meet you. My name is Hokuto." And he doesn't know one of those little winks where like a star flies out next to his eye, right? And he's like, "Hey, my name is Hokuto, and I respect your feats with the enchanted blades in the Seitai War, pretty much, right?" And we just see that both Natsuki and Uruha's like, "What's this guy going on about, right?" As Hokuto just says like, "Hey, I've long dreamed about fighting you with my whole body and spirit intact, and also just to go and let you know, I'm the one who killed Ibuki Misaka. My sorcery allows me to create armored dolls and operate them remotely. Also, just so you know, I'm the one who killed Kunishige Rokuhira. I pierced his heart with a katana." And Hokuto also then just says like, "Hey, and just to remind you, the man right next to me is actually named Yora." And Yora's like, "Hokuto, what are you telling all of them this for, right?" But Hokuto just says like, "Hang on, Yora, I'm almost done." He just says like, "Hey, this man is our leader right here, right?" And Yora's like, "Come on, quit it out, Hokuto." But Hokuto's like, "Hey, of course. He's the one who ordered Rokuhira and Misaka's deaths. We pledge our allegiance to him. He is irreplaceable, right?" And of course, at this point, both Natsuki and Uruha are tightening the grips on their swords. As Hokuto just is like, "All right," and I think that pretty much just clears who the two of us are. And as long as for sorcery goes, let's just say that anything goes in this battle. As all of a sudden, we see the Hokuto start to go ahead and reach over towards his sword to go and pull it out and just like start doing all of his various things. But as this happens, Uruha has already gone through, used the EI White Purity style, and slices Hokuto's right arm completely off right below the wrist. And we see the Hokuto is a little shocked by this. It's like one moment he's reaching for a sword, and the next minute it's completely gone as Uruha is sheathing up back his sword. It's honestly a really cool move that we see here. And honestly, before I just continue on, I want to talk about how cool Hokuto is, just pretty much go through and lay out the ground rules for the battle, not only getting Uruha and Natsuki a little riled up, being like, "Hey, I killed your brother and the person who you looked up to more in the world, Uruha," pretty much, and also just being like, "This is Yora, he ordered all of those deaths," like trying to get all of them riled up, but at the same time being like, "Hey, and as far as the battle goes, let's just have a fair fight," pretty much. It's honestly just a really cool thing, and the more I see from Hokuto, the more I absolutely love this guy, right? But either way, here in the moment, the battle just starts to ensue, right? As we see, yes, Uruha has gone through, used the EI White Purity style, and why this happens, Natsuki pretty much vaults over Uruha, using his blades to pretty much go through and to try to slice down Hokuto here in the moment, right? But of course, Hokuto still has his left hand that he draws out his sword with, and him and Yora both are able to block both of Natsuki's attacks. But of course, Natsuki has his lightning ability, which honestly, I probably should have remembered what it was called. Let me quickly duplicate this page and go to chapter 91. I know it was lightning or thunder something, but I don't remember the proper wording, so let me go find it real quick. That's be pretty neat, I would think so. Where is it? Let me just see how long I can stall for. It's called Lightning Menace, right? Well, we see that Natsuki, of course, has his Lightning Menace sorcery, goes through and uses it to pretty much shockwave himself and, of course, Yora and Hokuto, who are both deflecting his blades pretty much through a wall, as we see that they've now made it into the Kabanagi headquarters' third library. Now, it doesn't look like they've really messed with any, like, layers again, so I think this is probably still on the 6th floor, but honestly, we can't be too sure whatsoever, right? But as all of this battle is just continuing on, we see that Yora is just like, "Hey, Hokuto, like, you really riled all of them up," and Hokuto's like, "Hey, you're welcome about all of that," right? As of course, we see that now the combat has sort of been split into two groups. We see that Natsuki is currently fighting Yora, and they're pretty much deflecting each other's blades, and Hokuto, who is sort of just like standing over here, looks over to the doorway, where we see Uruha standing there, using the EI White Purity style, pouring the kata energy into his enchanted blade, or not his enchanted blade, his regular old katana, pretty much, channeling all of the energy in there. As you just get a little bit of narration, as I'm pretty sure this is narration from Hokuto's perspective, it's just like, "Hey, Yoji Uruha, fighting prodigy. He attained the White Purity style at the tender age of 16. As Hokuto just thinks like, man, it is super easy to imagine death in my future. He's like, hey, I've got goosebumps all over. As of course, we just see the speeding down to hallways none other than Uruha, as he comes out with the EI White Purity style, getting ready to go through and use it, and he just goes through and is simply able to cut and nick Hokuto's nose here in the moment, right? As we just see the bridge of Hokuto's nose is just like now cut open and bleeding a little bit. But of course, Hokuto knows how to use a sword, as we see that he goes through and lops off all of the fingers on Uruha's left hand, and of course is holding his sheath. And like, it's all of them too. Like, we see his thumb, his pointer, his index, his ring, and his pinky. Is that all of the fingers? I think that's all of the fingers, right? But either way, Hokuto just lops all of them clean off pretty much, right? As he even thinks like, hey, it's a bit shallow, I suppose, but I still got his left hand pretty much, right? And Hokuto even just says like, hey, payback for my right hand. I got your left, my right, you already got earlier, so not really much else to do there, right? But of course, this makes Uruha be like, damn, like, this guy's actually really good. He steps backwards and evades my sword swipes by the thinnest hair, and the precise movement his blade misses, he moves in and counters. All with exquisite timing, his coordination and perception are all exceptional, right? As we just see more of this battle starts to happen around the two of them, and eventually both the groups are sort of getting in with each other, mingling again. As we see on one edge is Hokuto, who is pretty much pushing Uruha back, and of course Natsuki is pushing Yura back, as Yura and Uruha pretty much end up back to back pretty much, right? As we just sort of look around and two of them notice each other, bump into each other, and of course here in the moment, Yura's like, oh, Uruha's behind me, let me try to go through and stab him. Turns his blade behind him pretty much and stabs the air behind him. And it looks like he's pierced something, but only what he pierced was Uruha's cloak here in the moment, as it's pretty much like almost like a smoke screen pretty much here in the moment, right? But as all of this happens, we just see that Hokuto's like, hey, but again, right above him is now Natsuki. He's like, hey, pay attention to me, right? As you now see, the battle has sort of shifted the perspectives once more, as now it's Natsuki versus Hokuto. As we just see Natsuki's like, hey, don't tell me you're all satisfied now. With old Uruha here, who's been sitting in a hot spring all this time looking like a prune pretty much, right? And we now just see that Hokuto's like, oh, it seems like this guy wasn't going at his full power earlier either, right? As one of my favorite parts of this chapter happens, as of course Natsuki dual wields his swords here in the moment, and he throws one of them up in the air. I think, what does he throw? The one in his right hand, if I'm not mistaken, up in the air, and it sort of like makes Hokuto like be like, oh, wait a second, like, what is this guy doing? As he throws it up in the air, Natsuki comes through and slices Hokuto's midsection with the blade in his left hand. And it's just a really cool, like, faint moment, and it's just really, really cool to see pretty much, right? As Natsuki also just starts to think about Uruha, he thinks like, hey, his initial movements are insanely fast, but he lacks that edge. Once you've mastered a technique, it tends to stick with you. But that instinctual edge, intuition, split-second judgment calls, and moving like a knife, you lose that stuff if you're not constantly exposed to battle. Those fine details are even more crucial than technique when a master warriors fight. As Natsuki just thinks like, hey, but I've never stopped fighting. As he goes back through, grabs his other blade back with his right hand here in the moment, as Natsuki just says, my edge is sharper than ever. As we see that he is now in the moment knocked Hokuto off the railing of one of the parts of this library pretty much. As Hokuto starts to fall to the ground, Natsuki just follows him here in the moment, right? As Natsuki just thinks like, hey, all you master sword fighter jerks, you all can eat crow. Watch my back. As we just see that he goes down towards Hokuto and just yells, I am Natsuki Misaka, and I'm dashing past you. As you just see, he comes down here and locks blades with Hokuto here in the moment. And of course, Yura, who is fighting Uruha, just thinks like, wait a second, we can finish this guy off here, and jumps off the banister as well to go follow Hokuto and Natsuki to try to help Hokuto take care of Natsuki here in the moment, right? As we just get this whole idea where Yura says like, hey, I'm sorry Hokuto, but I like to take them out one at a time and make sure that we actually finish them, right? So now it's like this, hey, both Yura and Hokuto are fighting against Natsuki, right? And as all this happens, once again, we look back over to Uruha, who is thinking about Natsuki. As Uruha just says like, hey, Natsuki is razor sharp. All this time I was relaxing in those hot baths while he was still at it. And not to mention our foes. There's that beast who's been managing to handle Natsuki's actions like it's nothing. And everyone except me is in prepared and peak fighting form. All the more reason to kill them now. As we just see that pretty much something flips a switch in Uruha's brain. As also we cut back over to Natsuki, who's currently fighting these two in the moment, as he looks up to the banister, of course, where Uruha was and where the rest of the team pretty much just jumped off of, right? As we just see Natsuki think, the former prodigy, his skills were honed in battle as he constantly evaded death. His sword's original purpose was the skill of the living. Surrounded by master warriors at the brink of death, his instincts came flooding back. As of course, Uruha is down his left hand, which means that he can't use the EIY Purity style as great as he once was. As we see the shadowy figure of Uruha put one leg up on the banister, and he starts to jump down, as we get this really, really cool page of Uruha putting his sheath into his mouth and drawing out his blade to use the white purity style here in the moment. He comes through and cuts all the way down straight into Hokuto here in the moment. He dashes by both Natsuki and Yura as he just comes through and slices Hokuto. It's such a cool move, and the paneling is just so awesome as we see everybody just falls down into a fountain that's in the middle of this library pretty much, which, to be fair, putting a fountain in the middle of a library, I don't really know how good of an idea that is, but it's an idea, I'll give it to you pretty much, right? As you just get to the final page of the chapter, as you see that everybody is just standing in a square pretty much, just looking at each other, all standing up here in the moment. We see, of course, standing across from Uruha is Hokuto, and then across from Natsuki is Yura. As we just see them all standing there, all their gazes are pretty much interlinked with each other, and we just see that everybody's bloodied and damaged. We see Hokuto just standing here, the buff guy he is, the cut on his nose, the blood covering all around him. His right arm is just gone, or his right hand is just gone here in the moment. Natsuki honestly looks probably the best out of everybody. He doesn't have like any major wounds, but just like a bunch of like blood just splattering his face. And Yura just is the same, like his suit is just covered in all of this blood, as Uruha is just sitting here looking at the rest of them. And as everybody's just silent, looking at each other, we just see Hokuto start to laugh here in the moment, going, ha ha ha, bwah, ha 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 ha. And that's where we end this chapter of Kagurabachi, chapter number 92. Again, this chapter was titled The Swordsman. And legitimately, what a cool chapter of Kagurabachi this is. Like, it is just so absolutely fun just to sit down, see all of these characters fighting each other. It just makes me happy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so absolutely fun. I also just love how we get how all of these characters fight here in the moment. Just like seeing Uruha step back into, he was always the baby of the group of all of the Master Swordsmen, but he was given a blade anyway. So on the brink of death and watching everybody, he just had to learn. This is a really cool thing in my opinion to see. And of course, just seeing how Yura is able to keep up with everybody, Natsuki using his ability called Lightning Menace some more. It's just all well and fun. And also, I think I really forgot to mention all the times that Uruha used his ability Koen in this chapter, or what is it? Crimson Recital, I think is what it's called. I'm not really 100%, I don't 100% remember that. And I literally just think I forgot to mention that half the times, because we do see it flaring up around his eyes a good amount of times. Like, whenever we first see him fight, we see the areas are really large around his eyes whenever he cuts off Hokuto's arm on page 5, pretty much. But either way, it's just a really fun chapter. I also really like how Hokuto's whole thing at the beginning of the chapter is like, hey, whatever happens, we're just going to fight each other and have a good time doing it, pretty much, right? Here are all of our ground rules. Here's who I am. Here who he is. I'm getting you all riled up. Maybe you'll like be more sloppy or something. Either way, it's just a really, really fun chapter of Kagurabachi. And here's where a little bit of the bad news comes in. Next week it has actually been confirmed that being that Hokuto went to Anime NYC and how manga are normally like 3 or so weeks ahead on manga chapters, it seems like Takeru Hokuto is not going to have a full chapter of Kagurabachi prepared for us next time, which means that we are going to be getting about a 10-page like special chapter. This happened earlier in Kagurabachi whenever we got the Genchi Sojo chapter. It was pretty much all about Sojo. What was that, like 51 or 56.1 or something like that? Pretty much just like a bonus chapter, 58.1. I was decently close there. But pretty much just like, hey, he couldn't make it perfectly. And it's been about a year since that happened. It was in November of 24 whenever we got that chapter. So yeah, honestly, I guess we'll get it at some point, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's what's happening in Kagurabachi next week. But either way, this was just a really fun chapter. And yeah, I guess I'll just see you guys next time for Kagurabachi chapter 92.1, I guess. It won't be chapter 93. Oh no, it sort of sucks. But I will see you guys in 2 weeks for Kagurabachi chapter 93. But yeah, again, this was Glowplasma. If you guys did enjoy this video, I've talked about Kagurabachi plenty of our times on this YouTube channel. Just go to @Glowplasma on YouTube and you can see all my videos there. Also, the Kagurabachi playlist will be in the description box of this video along with the end card of this video as well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. That final page is just so cool, seeing everybody looking at each other, all of the books flying around everywhere, and it's just a really good time, you know what I'm saying? Before that out of the way, I will catch you guys next time for Kagurabachi chapter 91.2. 2 weeks, we'll get in our full chapter, but until then, this would be Glowplasma signing out. Bro, Hokuto, he may be my favorite Kagurabachi character now. Like, no joke, I love Hokuto. We've only known him for like 3 chapters. I would do anything for him. I'll catch you guys next time. This is Glowplasma signing out.